You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Welcome back, Sheldon Keefe, presented by Bet365. It's time for the Thursday edition of Leafs Morning Take. It is Nick Alberga and a returning Jay Rosehill. What's going on, Rosie?
Leafs Morning Take. Let's do it, man. I'm excited. Game day. Keefe's back. I don't know. I think it's going to be an averagely, not a huge deal, but lots of claps. Keefe's he left the city with rose-colored, just smelling like roses. You know what I mean? Which is fine with me.
Yeah. We got a lot to cover on today's show. We got a big topic off the top here of the show, I should say. Big breaking news, which we're going to get to. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase today. That's NATION, NATION. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show? Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. So we thought something was going down yesterday. John Tavares leaves practice. The guy doesn't leave practice. If there's one thing you could say about John Tavares, he plays through a lot. And as soon as he leaves practice, I'm like, this is not good. And then the news comes out today, week to week, lower body injury. Fraser Minton has been recalled from the American Hockey League. Your thoughts, Rosie?
Well, geez, when I heard about it, I was like, what? Someone saw him limping, leaving the building? Who gives a rip? Throw some ice on it, maybe a Charlie horse, who cares? But I saw the video this morning and he's like writhing in pain, squirming around on the ground, like no bueno whatsoever. When I looked at the video, backs to the wall, gets 1 foot kind of sliding out, loses edges, and does the old splits. And I feel like the best thing that I could think of based on the video was that he pulled his groin and probably pulled it pretty damn good. You can see both legs kind of go out and zoink, and it doesn't take much, as you get to be a man that's a little bit, past his 30s and you start to do the splits when you're not ready for it, tweak, your groin just goes, and it's not great and it's debilitating. But again, if that was the knee or something else, I don't know what's better. I know guys have had groin issues for years and years and years and surgeries and everything, but he did something without a doubt. I think maybe, would you say the most hopeful thing was he pulled his groin?
Probably that, or like a hip. If it's a knee, I think it's a bit more scary. But I almost want to say, like, when it rains, it pours. Like, the team has not been playing well. They're in practice. They're just getting ready for a game against Sheldon Keefe and the New Jersey Devils, and this happens. Like, you talk about bad times for something like this to happen. You can't score goals. Now you take one of your top goal scorers out of the lineup. It's got to be next man up, and that approach. I think the positive I can grab from this, the Leafs tend to do well when one of their big boys is out of the lineup, but I won't lie. This is a pretty big blow because John Tavares, Rosie, has been excellent this season.
Yeah, he has for sure. I'm tired of next man up. I'm tired of, they're just one after another, and I don't have the man games lost due to injury in front of me, but it seems like even if that number is not huge, I think it can be deceiving. We've lost key personnel over and over again. If you want to talk about both goaltenders, if you want to talk about Austin Matthews and his ability to stay healthy this year and going back and forth from being in and out of the lineup, Jake McCabe, I think a pretty sturdy D-man back there, and we're realizing the last 4 games that we've been missing him. Now John Tavares, a keystone in the lineup. He's been fantastic, almost having a career year where you really thought the last 2 years of this contract were just going to be almost ugly, and that was the price you'd pay to get him in Toronto. Hasn't been the case. He's really been fantastic. The only silver lining I can think of is maybe this gives him some time during these dog days of the season where it becomes a grind to really get a breather and to really get some rehab done and really rest his body as we're approaching the Four Nations face-off. That's about it, but I do think it's most likely a groin if I had to guess. Obviously, no one can tell, but that's my best guess based on the video, and a huge loss for the team at a terrible time where they're struggling and trying to find it. But, this team's jumped up in adversity before and answered the call when their backs were kind of against the wall. And maybe this is another time that they can do exactly that. That's the only hope anyway.
It really is interesting, too, because Tavares, like the rest of the team, hasn't played very well over the last week. And if you recall, most seasons, it seems like he hits a swoon in general around mid-January to like mid-February. And now you're going to delete that essentially because he's not going to be playing and you're going to rest him up. And I think to your point about the Four Nations, their next game coming out of the Four Nations would, I believe, be February 22nd, a home date with the Carolina Hurricanes. Not to speculate on how long he's going to miss, but again, I think this team has proven that they have the ability to rise up to the occasion when a big guy goes down. We know the numbers that Austin Matthews. It's happened before with Nylander, with Marner, with Tavares. I mean, the list goes on and on of like list your star leaving the lineup, and it seems like they play better, with that person out. So I think this is intriguing. I think it's unfortunate. It's so freak too. And I just think it's so unfortunate in the fact that JT has been so big, so important for this team. And they're like at practice, just chilling out. And that's when it happens out of all times.
Yeah, an unfortunate small area game there. Someone's gonna have to step up here.
Who is it?
Fraser Minton on the
Yeah.
positive side, you get to take a look at Fraser Minton again, see what he has going on. But if it is a groin, everyone that's played hockey for an extended period of time has probably pulled their groin from time to time. My worry is that when you pull your groin, sometimes you go down, you go shit, and you get up and you're like, did I do that? Oh yep, I did it. Damn it! And you kind of get off, and that's like a pretty good little pull tweak that takes a while. He went down and was like writhing in pain on the ice, like squirming around, like pop or slip, and I just don't like that because as a hockey player with the groin, you push out with the one leg and you got to retract that back to the middle quick. And that's got to be hard and powerful and fast. And when your groin's gone, you have like nothing there and it's like impossible to skate. So I don't like the combination of what I saw and what his reaction was to going down. And again, such a stupid thing, a small area game at the end of practice. Berube didn't even see it. It's just kind of a freak thing. But like you said, when it rains, it pours. This team has dealt with a lot of adversity this year. And it's tough to watch, especially when what they've been going through the last 3+ games and even more if you really want to break down their play. But they're going to have to step up here and go through some more. And again, hopefully, they're getting the stuff out of the way so that after that Four Nations, when you start to get out of the dog days of the season and start get toward, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, we can get everyone healthy. And it would just be amazing to have both goaltenders, all our studs, all our depth, our D-man, our back end, everyone healthy and say, okay, now let's put some shit together here and get a train going down the tracks coming into the postseason.
Oh, the ups and downs of the NHL season. So that is the very latest. If you're just tuning in, John Tavares labeled week to week a lower body injury he sustained, of course, at practice on Wednesday. Make sure you join us in Music City. That's coming up as well, Rosie. As you know, March 20th to Sunday, March 23rd, the first ever TLN Nation vacation. We're doing live podcasting on location, a winery tour, taking in the Toronto-Nashville game. This promises to be an electric trip for sure. We're offering 2 packages. One with flights, $24.50 plus tax. One without, $12.99 plus tax. Please note hotel rooms are double occupancy. And the most important part, you get to meet Jay Rosehill in person. All people will ever do is see you in pictures behind me in my set. So
What the hell do you have going on behind you now? I don't think I like it. It looks like a little freeze frame of the pod.
it is a freeze frame of you ranting a couple months ago. I thought it would just be
Oh.
a signature move for today's pod because I felt like you'd be a little fired up after a 3-game skid here.
I am trying to reserve my patience and tirades because I remember going into the beginning of the season when they came out hot and they put everything together and they're climbing up the standings and they had those good runs and they're getting such good play from this and goaltending and the D's solid and the coaching okay. And I remember saying probably at some point, listen, let's just be grateful for what they have. If the dog days of the season, which I keep saying, because in my mind playing like January, February is just like,
They're
oh
here.
my God,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
grind. The body's hurting. The playoffs are coming up. There's not a lot to look forward to except the playoffs, which are still a ways away. You've had that little whatever kind of break you get for the holidays or you see. So that's done. There's nothing coming up. And it's the grindy days of the hockey season. And I told myself, or at least I maybe said it out loud, Don't be surprised if in those dog days of January, February, they go on a little skid. They have an ugly period of hockey where the details aren't really there. They go on a 3-4 game skid. Don't freak out and start pulling out your hair. Keep things in perspective of what this team is and can be and what they're working towards. So I'm trying to stay on that, but it is concerning the way they're playing. I mean, I think before they even lost the first game out of this 3-game slide, we had pointed towards them not playing great games. And yeah, they were pulling them off. And that is a good sign of a good team that can win games they maybe don't deserve to. But they were getting outshot drastically, getting scored on first all the time. Just a lot of things that aren't indicative of solid hockey was happening. And now here's that coming to fruition, I think, with this 3-game slide. But we talked about a big week of hockey. They've dropped the first one, and it's no easy test here. But I think if they can get a win here against the Devils, it'll be a nice little reminder that they can beat good hockey teams.
I'm still trying to get over you from the other day. You were so zen. It wasn't the Jay Rosehill I expected on the Monday edition. You were very in a zen mood, but you were compartmentalizing, which I love to see on this podcast. That's good.
Well, the fury will rain down if the same bullshit happens that happen. I am worried about why they're losing the wrong games. And it does seem to be effort level related, which I think why the Boo Birds were out there last game and at home. The effort just doesn't seem to be there. No one's saying, enough of this. I'm putting the team on my back, like the Nathan McKinnon mentality. No one seems to have that. And then you have some of those comments after the game of, I thought we played pretty good. And, what's the big deal? Like, Jesus, man, know your audience. This team or this market that follows this team is so tired of losing in ways that just aren't acceptable. And to hear that, it's starting to build. And I get why people are booing, and I get why the way they're losing is disappointing. And it also comes to the lack of offense. I mean, this team is built on offense. All the money is dedicated to offensive players. So a little bit of lack of effort mixed with can't score any goals, which we've seen seasons end because they can't score a bloody goal. It's just a reminder of what's happened in the past. So I get why people are getting fired up, but I still have the belief that this is a different team than the past, and they're playing different hockey. And I'm trying not to get ahead of myself here with this little skid.
Fair enough. I like it. Nationgear.ca, by the way, where you can book TLN first ever nation vacation, nationgear.ca. And also win or loss, you can check out tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips, where he's going to recap this game against the New Jersey Devils. Got another fun guest on today's show. The one and only Jackie Redmond's going to drop by in about 15 or so here, Rosie.
Jacqueline, yeah, she seems to be a girl on the move. My goodness, with the WWE Raw move to Netflix, it seems like it's as big as ever, and it's pretty interesting of her to be able to cover both sports the way she does. And I think she spends a lot of time on airplanes and preparing, and she is a working girl and does very good. So excited to pick her brain a little bit about her perspective on the Maple Leafs.
Massive Leafs fan as well as Jackie Redmond. So she's coming up in about 15 minutes from now at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. So the story writes itself today. Again, no John Tavares, week-to-week lower body injury. Jake McCabe is going to be back in the mix, which is great to see. They were 1-3 without him. And Sheldon Keefe returning to Toronto. Of note, this is the third meeting between these two sides. The Leafs have taken the previous two.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to Jake McCabe, it's nice to see him back. I thought it might take a couple more. And
got a conky, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, and here he is, which is nice. It's great. Obviously, his symptoms are gone. He's feeling strong, done the workouts, done the tests and whatnot, and he's ready to rock. And I don't know, Corsi bullshit. I don't know what they say. I don't really care. But I think the eye test of having Jake McCabe in the lineup is super beneficial. I think he's kind of a rock back there, an anchor who can do a lot of different things. And he's kind of got that father leadership type of feel to him. And I bet you in that locker room, the guys feel that, and whether it shows up on paper a certain amount or not, I don't really care. I think he's a big addition to have back in the lineup, and I think they were missing him, and he was certainly a part of why they haven't had very much to give during his absence. So hoping that he can be a little bit of a spark that ignites these boys tonight, because Jesus, they got to crawl out of this thing. They got to have a big performance tonight. Why not against the Devils that they have had some success against this year, but just barely. And they are a very good hockey team. And Sheldon Keefe's return, there's going to be a little extra incentive on that side of the locker room.
Ironically enough, I think the Devils are like a perfect team to snap the Maple Leafs out of this thing. And by that, maybe create a bit of offense. Like, luckily for me, or unluckily, I've been at the last couple games and they've been a tough watch. I was there against Vancouver over the weekend. I was there against Dallas. I'm going to be there tonight against the New Jersey Devils. But the Devils love to play that Keefe up-tempo hockey. And I know Berube's not a big fan of that. And I think you stay the course and respect the process, you'll be okay. But I wonder if this invites the Maple Leafs to open things up a bit, because that's been my major takeaway. You got all this star power. You got all these guys that make all this money. They can't produce anything right now. They have 4 goals in the last 3 games, Rosie. Think about that. Like, it's so amazing to think a week ago at this time, we were prepping for that game against Carolina. They go up 2-0 early. Nylander's got 2 breakaways, a 2-on-1. He's on fire, feeling good about life. And ever since then, it's been downhill for this team.
Yeah, it really has. It feels like a while ago now. They did take that 2-0 lead, and I mean, you sure as hell can't do that as a player. But when I was watching, I was like, baby, we got this thing, in
Yeah.
cruise control. We're in complete control. It looked like it was going to be one of those nights where we take the lead off the bat and never let it go. And it went the polar opposite, and they've never got that feeling back, which is frustrating, no doubt. But so opening it up, what does that mean? Because they used to play a little fly by the seat of their pants, open up
Yeah.
hockey, loop and shoot, little high risk, like offensive minded. Let's see if we can score 5 tonight. And they did. They had certainly regular season success doing that with enough talent. I don't love the narrative of Berube's handcuffing their creativity. I can't stand that shit. Letting these guys in particular just go do whatever they want is not the recipe for success long term. I like the way they're playing a little tighter, a little more defensive. But yeah, that comes. I don't know if that. I'm not really willing to blame that as being the problem for them not to be able to score. But what's the stats here? They're outscored 13-4 here in this skid. I mean, that's massive. You can't do anything with that. So the power play is a big thing. We've talked about it till we're blue in the face. The big boys got to get going. They have been the ones scoring the majority of the goals, as you've noted. And whether it's just more consistent scoring, getting a power play goal, every night, every other night is going to help chip in. And Jake McCabe helping out on the back end. It's tough to know what the answers are and why they're not scoring. They are the Leafs. They do Leafy things. They have this high octane $50 million power play that can't even get a goddamn shot on net. Frustrating, yes. What the answers are, they have to figure out what that is. They have to figure out a formula that's conducive to winning, because you've shored up your back end a little bit. That's a lot of that's been on goaltending, but you can't go on these skids where you can't score a goddamn goal. You just can't. We've seen it in the playoffs, and you don't get many more cracks at it. You lose 2 games in a row, you're toast, man.
You see, he's been getting strays for this losing streak.
Is it Chief or no?
Joe Thornton.
Oh God,
Because he was on that mentor trip. I love Leafs Twitter sometimes, man, because people go off the deep end. They lost 3 in a row, man. Producer Vic is losing his shit. I'm talking to him off the ledge. Zach's taking calls on his show. I'm like, is it mid-January? Is it May? Like, I had to look at my calendar for a second. I'm like, we got to chill. I know I'm the more zen one on this podcast. If you do recall, it was a bit over the top the last couple of years, but I look forward more to the Stanley Cup playoffs. But you're so right on that front. Like, yeah, you can play a system, but you're still that very skilled guy who knows how to play hockey, right? And I think they got to find a way to work a bit harder. I talked about this yesterday. If you watch Colorado play, and again, it gets back to the same old conversation. Do you hate to lose, right? You watch Nathan McKinnon play even the other night against the Rangers. It's 3-2. The guy's like, nah, it's not happening on my watch. We're going to tie this game. We're going to win it in OT. You just don't see that enough. The urgency level, I would say, from the big boys, the last couple games specifically, I've noticed they haven't had that extra level. But when you get paid that money and you're that type of star power, you should have that extra level to get to. You're the guy who should be getting the team going, and they're not right now, is the thing.
Yeah, I know. And that would be my critique. I know what it's like to play in Toronto, and I know what it's like to block out the noise, and I know what it's like to try to stay positive, and I'm on board with all of that. But to show that you're pissed off at at the result of a game and to show that you are the number one person who is defining that is unacceptable, that's a necessity in my mind. And yeah,
Mhm.
your example is perfect. Nathan McKinnon. I mean, when he loses, he's furious, and he's off the ice, and he just cannot wait to prepare for the next one. Like, it can't come fast enough. And I'm sorry to say, but every one of the Maple Leafs, like, stars is always just kind of, gee, like, yeah, pretty good. We played pretty good. Like, they don't have the attitude that's easy to get on board with. You know what I mean? And it's frustrating because the fans get so pissed, almost to a fault. You know,
Yeah.
their patience is gone, and they want results now, and that's fine. But it just, they don't seem to have that competitive. I hate to lose. This is unacceptable. I'm willing to go through a wall to get this game back on track. It's just kind of stare at each other and look around and shrug your shoulders, and it pisses people off. I'm sorry, it does.
Mhm.
And they've had it for a long time, and I mean, the season could end, and the playoffs could blow up in their face, and a great season could go down the toilet, and they still don't seem to have that pissed off mentality. Which, I'm sorry, it's some of the reasons that they take some heat.
It's very nonchalant. I said this on yesterday's pod too. I think the silver lining out of this whole conversation, it just reinforces the fact there's no way in hell you re-sign Marner or Tavares right now. Because again, at the end of the road, Rosie, is that light, that potential light that, hey, if this doesn't work out, if it's the same team in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you make some tough decisions, you move on from some of these guys, and you reimagine your roster. I think that's what gives me solace sleeping at night, is knowing this roster could look a lot different. Because I think your breakdown is accurate. Now, there's a short list of players in this league who are rabid dogs, like Nathan McKinnon, who just hate losing. And the guy's losing sleep. He's going home. He's getting on the bike. He's shooting. Like, he's doing anything possible to better himself for the next game. He just wound differently. Okay, so I can't put it on these guys specifically, but you're so right. There's this nonchalant nature to them, even when they lose, or even when they got like a 3-point night. It's very, very passive. I'm trying my best to antagonize you on today's show. Did you see what happened post Dumba smashing of Max Domi last game? In that little block of space, did you see what transpired there last game? Because I laughed. I
Mm,
thought of you right away.
break it down for me.
So again, I'm not ripping on one guy here, but so Dumba rocks Domi at the bench, and it just so happened a guy who's in a contract year is going to get paid 13, 14 schmil a year, he hopes, skated by. He looked away, skated by, right off the bench, complete the change. Just, I don't know if you feel differently about it, but it made me chuckle a bit.
Well, I know what you're saying, and it's just all wrapped up into one thing, and that's just, I don't want to rip on the guys too hard, but the
Yeah.
compete level, and like what I had just mentioned, like the Nathan McKinnon mentality is not there. Like, you know it when the Leafs are kind of down and out, and it's not going well, and the first goal is scored on them, and maybe they're down two. You're just like, you have a tendency to go, we're hooped. Like, no one's gonna rise up and just dump one and forecheck the living shit out of a D-man and bury him and dig one out and
Yeah.
bury one in this fat celly and just buzz the bench and let's go. And then someone else gets bonked and someone grabs him and sheds their shit and maybe takes a 2-minute. Who gives a shit? You don't do that in our barn. We kill off that 2-minute penalty, get to our first line again, bang, bang, chance. Like, that just doesn't fucking happen, man.
I know.
It's just
I
kind
know.
of, ooh, to the outside, oh, to the here, and same, like, the waves of mentality and aggression and intensity don't seem to come very much in waves. It's just kind of, it's very high level. They're very good players and they are a good hockey team, but I would like to see more aggression out of them, more FU, more chip on their shoulder, like the teams that win. I would like more of that. And instead we get blank faces, sunken shoulders, and bullshit responses post game about, I'm pretty happy with how we played, just didn't quite get the bounces. Like, no, it's not that. It wasn't that. No one else saw that. You're the one that thought that. And I again, I know what it's like to protect yourself in that locker room. I know what it's like to try not to buy into narratives. I get what they're doing, but they're doing it to a fault, if you ask me. It's starting to piss people off. You're starting to see, signs of years past where they just don't have anything and don't seem to really care and don't seem to be addressing it, which is super frustrating for the market and for the fan base. Again, I want to keep it in check because it's 3 games. It's not, this crazy fall off the map, fall off the planet. It is the dog days of the season. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I don't like where they've been trending the last, I will call it a couple of weeks now. Despite a few wins in here and there, it just doesn't seem to be the mentality we're looking for, that's going to get them through that playoff ceiling that they can't seem to break through.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take here at the Leafs Nation 401. In support of sick kids, Eric Martin sends us a super chat. Appreciate it. Would it be crazy to put two defensemen on PP1? I think it would be. Like, the star power speaks for itself, but the intrigue now is Tavares is out. So what does PP1 look like?
Yeah, and honestly, I like nothing
You don't
against
care.
Johnny
You're
T.
done. You're finished.
No, big fan of Johnny T, and he's great. But I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes you need something weird to jostle something loose. Maybe you throw a guy in there who you just wouldn't expect, who's just really gonna try to focus on maybe funneling pucks to the net, maybe being a big body, maybe being a dog on those rebounds, maybe really chasing down some pucks and kind of pulling out of the PP mentality and going towards the work your nuts off in the PP. Like sometimes power plays, I remember playing, they'd get PP whacked for saying it's a privilege to be on that thing. It's not lackadaisical time. It's time to still work. It's time to still move your feet. It's time to still battle. It's still time to engage. And sometimes PPs get a little complacent saying, all right, let's put up a sweet little play here. Let's make that that move we've been working on, and let's see what we got. And there's nothing but time and space out there, and it kind of blows up in your face. And you got to get reminded sometimes you got to work. You got to be a dog. It's a privilege to be out there. So maybe having John come out is what triggers that. If you remember back to early in the season, they lose Austin Matthews. Power plays is struggling, and the best we've seen the power play this year is when Austin Matthews gets taken out, the best goal scorer of the last several years. Does that make sense? No, but not everything makes sense. Sometimes you got to jar something loose. So I'm hoping that happens. Who that guy is, I'm not really sure, but I don't think it's so much of a personnel issue on the power play as it is a mentality. Their mentality is just not where it needs to be. And it just, the frustrating thing for me is that it continues to blow up in their face. Like, how many dozens and dozens and dozens of looks do you need to where your mentality is just not giving you results to change the goddamn thing? That's what's bothering me, is they don't seem to be changing a whole lot out there, no matter how much lack of success presents itself.
It is so in their heads when it comes to zone entries. They can't even game the zone and even actually worry about snapping it around. That's what concerns me.
Yeah, I know. It's that's where I really see, like, when I think of the dog shit power plays that we watch, it's right at the blue line there. And it's like in the feed, it's a shovel it one way or the other, chip it, but no one's buzzing. Guys waiting on the blue line flat footed, and you handcuff him. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, have you not talked about this? Don't you have like 1, 2, or 3 things that you go to that everyone knows what's presenting itself? Okay, we're going to do a little chip behind the D-man. Someone's going to retrieve it. Okay, we're going to, like, whatever it is. They keep doing this like last minute drop pass, and it doesn't even seem to be an orchestrated drop pass. It seems to be a panic. I'm running out of room. Let me just drop it to the next guy. And it's like, here's a problem for you to deal with. And it's they, like you say, they can't even get it set up half the time. And when they do, it seems to go towards this low percentage, high risk type of play that ends up going the other way. And then an absolute air out of the sails momentum killer presents itself again, and they try again, get off. There's 30 seconds left for PP2, but it's already shot to hell. Tired of watching that. So I don't know, maybe again, like I said, John Tavares coming out will ignite something with a new body out there.
We'll see. In support of sick kids, KPG sends us a pair of super chats. Nick is 100% right. Core 4 prove they cannot win. I did not say that. We'll see in the playoffs if they can win. If they can't, then you move on under Craig Berube, because I want a different look with a new coach with this Core 4. So reserving judgment on that front. The other super chat, maybe Stolars can steal us around in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're missing him right now. Wool's done a great job, but I wouldn't say leaking oil right now, but just not playing quite at the level that's stealing games.
Yeah.
You can't play everyone. You got to throw Hill to be in there. It would be nice to have Stoley. And again, like the beginning of the show, we just can't seem to have everything in place right now. It seems like, I'd like to know how many weeks of this season we've had with 2 healthy goalies. It doesn't seem like the majority of it by any stretch. And we're missing him right now. And again, I said maybe last week, I believe that right now, everyone being healthy, Stoley's our number one guy, just based on his play and his ability to absolutely shut the door and give them a chance to win every single night, even steal games at times. So we'll see if that happens. But again, mentality to me is everything. It's been a problem in the past. It's bothered me for a while. Even when they're playing good hockey, I would like a little more snarl, a little more intensity, which this core just doesn't seem to bring. From Austin, Johnny's not really that fire intensity player. Mitchie drives everyone nuts sometimes with his comments, his body language, his facial expressions, and Willie's just Willie out there, like, could take it or leave it some of the time. As good as they all are together, their mentality, I think, is holding them back.
In support of sick kids, JD Anderson with a legit question. He says, is it within the rule set to refuse a power play, as it seems at this point a better option than putting that atrocity of a power play out there, Rosie? I could back that, honestly. Just no, I don't want the fucking power play. No,
We're all good, thanks. Let's just keep playing. I never seen
I love
it before,
the idea.
I've tweeted it before. I'm like, can we just pass on this one and keep going with the 5-on-5? Because it's honestly a momentum killer. Like, to get a power play and to not just not score, but to just be dog shit and discombobulated, you're worse off than before that whistle went, in my opinion. It kind of sucks the life out of you. You're honestly giving the other team a little bit of momentum boost by killing that penalty. That guy comes to the box and the coach is like, all right, back on our horse, away we go, type of thing. And you can really steal momentum back after a good PK, which every team seems to do constantly against this group. So no, you can't negate it. You got to figure it out. But people are getting pretty tired of watching the same BS.
They are. The following interview is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program, an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. As we play Where in the World is Jackie Redmond today? What's going on, Jackie? How are you?
What's up, guys? I'm at home, actually. So
Weird.
it's, I just figure if I'm home and off, I might as well fill it with podcast appearances and catching up with friends. So, hi, I miss you guys. What's up? I heard you guys talking about that atrocious power play.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? It's just been dog shit, Jackie.
Sucks to be you guys having to talk about it every day. That's what
True.
I think.
All we talk about.
I mean, what else can you say about it, right? I mean, it's exactly as Rosie said. It's dog shit. It's awful. And what's so crazy about it is that it makes no sense. You know, you're supposed to be a highly skilled team. You got multiple superstars on one unit. You refuse to try any other alternative, and yet you can't figure out how to get it done. What blows my mind is this very small section of the fan base on the internet that thinks it's a coaching problem. Like this is not new. This has been going on. And to me, if it continues, because I guess there's still some leash left, like take one of the big boys off the top unit. Like, I'm sorry, you are grown ass men now. You can handle a little bit of tough love and having to earn something back. And honestly, maybe it'll make you have 2 decent units instead of one that blows and is always out there. I don't know.
And we were talking about that before you came on, like the mentality of these players. You know, we compare them to Nathan McKinnon, which is probably not fair to do. He's one of the top couple players on the planet, and his compete level is through the roof, which coaches talk about all the time. From the outside, not covering these guys every day, do you see what we're talking about with the core group of guys, and maybe just not, pissing people off through a skid like this by not having that chip on their shoulder like a Nathan McKinnon would, and that level of compete, and it's just unacceptability of losing in this fashion? Do you see that from where you sit?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration and the comparisons and people thinking that there's maybe a lack of care or effort. I mean, you're a former player. You know that is more than likely not the case. Like, these guys don't want to suck on the power play. They want to figure it out. But I think that we've seen it long enough to know that something has got to give here. And I don't think that it's coaching. These guys have been star players their entire lives. They could figure out how to run a power play on their own. Like, not to take anything away from the coaching staff, but like, it's not we're not like solving world peace here. Like this, it's a power play. So I just think obviously they care, obviously they're trying, but it's not working. And I do feel like, and this isn't the player's fault, it's the organization's fault. I do feel like there hasn't really been that many instances in the last half decade where one of those guys hasn't gotten exactly what they wanted. Like I said this on the JD Bunkus podcast yesterday. Nate, give me one time in the last half decade where one of the star players, you can call it a core 3, core 4, core 5, depending who you want to loop in there, has actually had to sacrifice something on the ice. When has it ever happened? And Mitch Marner getting benched against the Ducks for 30 fucking seconds 4 years ago doesn't count. Like, and I'm not saying they deserve it. I'm not even saying that the power play not being good is necessarily any individual's fault. But at some point, you have to find a way to motivate your players, regardless of how much money they're making and how happy you want to make them and how much you want them to want to play there. At some point, the winning has to come before that. And I'm not talking about winning a few games in January. I'm talking about winning the whole thing, doing it all, going all the way. And unless you find a way to get one of these guys or maybe a couple of these guys, maybe it's a little pissed off, maybe it's a little motivated to prove something. How are you going to do that? Because continuing to say over and over and over and over again, eventually their skill's going to win out. Like, have we not seen that it's not working? Like, it has not worked. You've won 5 playoff games. That's
Jack,
it.
you ever wonder why CM Punk chirps you about the Leafs on a daily basis? This is why. The content is through the
So
roof
annoying.
these days.
He's so annoying. I'm like, and it's so funny because people will get in the comments on Twitter anytime him and I have a hockey conversation publicly. Oh my God, just tell him the Hawks suck. I'm like, yeah, but he's witnessed multiple cups in his life. I haven't seen my team play in a final in my lifetime. They haven't even like competed in the final round for a Stanley Cup since I've been alive. So it's hard to argue with him because he always has that. But it's you look back at those teams and they did move guys around. Like they did shuffle players around when things weren't when Patrick Kane wasn't going or things weren't working, and they had 2 power play units. So with star players on both. So I don't know how you guys feel about it. And I know that they're still giving these guys a little bit of rope to figure out the power play. But for me, take one of the big guns and put them on the second unit. Maybe someone needs to be pissed off. Maybe someone needs to I can't believe I'm the guy that's being put on the second, get put on the second unit, go make that second unit work, score some goals and force the coach to be like, well, this unit's going. So you guys are going first, not the top unit, I don't know.
Yeah. And that brings up a question to me, at this point in the season with Craig Berube. I mean, I'm a Craig Berube fan. I like what he's done with the team.
Same.
I think the good hockey they've played is as good as they've played in a long time. Accountability is kind of a big thing that I think they were lacking in the past that I think he's brought to a level. I think he seems to have held the team accountable as far as systems and how you're going to play. But as far as their attitudes and compete level and lack of effort at times, you think he's finally going to crack and crack the whip and lash out at, them in general. And he really doesn't seem to, which is my one critique of Chiefs so far is how do you not stomp on these guys a little bit, wake them up, rattle their cage, do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you get that mentality or what's your critique level of Craig Berube at this point in the season?
I agree. I think we all thought, oh, like Mr. Accountability is coming in and it's going to be different. He's a hard ass. Like he's not going to take any shit. But I do think like in his defense, it's a lot easier said than done, especially when you're the new guy that's stepping into a room. And obviously he garners a lot of respect for a multitude of reasons. But I think that there is something to be said for knowing when to do it and when to use those bullets and when to make those moves on the chessboard, if you will. But I do think that we're at that point, right? It's not the start of the season. You've been there half a season. Nobody thinks this team is in jeopardy of missing the playoffs. But when you're seeing the same issues show themselves that have not just been issues in the regular season for the Leafs, but that have quite literally cost them playoff series, you have to do something. Like, this is not year 1 or 2 of Matthews and Marner and these guys. Like, we are now getting to like the other side where it's like, oh my gosh, like this has been going on for a while now. So we need to start to see this come to fruition, and they need to get out of the first round. They need to win a Stanley Cup. So I do think that that's the one area where hopefully we'll start to see some of that if this slide continues. They are really talented though. So something in me feels like, they're probably going to start winning, and then we'll all just be like, oh, all is well again. But we all know that when the postseason comes, everything gets harder. There's way less room out there. Mitch Marner specifically has struggled with that in the past. I know he's having an amazing year. I hope that he crushes it this year in the postseason. But because we know that the star players, not just Mitch, but he's, kind of at the forefront of that criticism, has trouble producing. So outside of the power play alone, which you're not going to get as many opportunities in the playoffs, you also have to find a way to get scoring from throughout your forward group, all throughout the lineup. And if you're not willing to break up Matthews and Marner and try to figure out a way to kind of distribute that offense throughout, then I still think it's going to be a problem, because I don't think we're seeing a lot of the depth guys sort of step up to the plate so far. And I don't even think it's their fault. Like, you have multiple quote unquote superstars on your team, and they're all in the top 6. And I understand doing that at certain points. And I understand that that was the way Sheldon Keefe really led things when he was here. But again, we have seen that they need more than that. And if you can't get it done under the salary cap with trades and offseason moves because of how much you pay said players, then it obviously has to come from another angle. And that angle, to me, is moving those guys around. Like, I still don't understand why Matthews and Marner have to play together all the time when they are both talented enough to drive their own line. I feel like I'm just saying the same shit.
We're just letting you go.
Oh, trust me, we do a daily Leafs podcast. It's the same content every day, but I think John Klingberg's going to save this team if they sign him. But it is a sick and twisted and perverse Leafs nation. John Tavares goes down. I could see this team winning like 10 of the next 12 games. What are your thoughts on the Tavares injury?
Sorry. What are my thoughts on the Tavares injury? It sucks. Yeah. It sucks. I think, I've liked Tavares this year. He's on the tail end of his career now. I think expectations for him should be a little bit lower than they've been in the past. I talk about sacrifices. He's one guy that did make a huge sacrifice coming into this season. Like, it can't be easy. Rosie, I would love your thoughts on how hard it would be for a guy not just a guy, a superstar in the league. He's wearing a C for an original 6 franchise. He's been an elite player, his whole career. Yes, it's one thing to just be like, okay, I'm giving it up because I know this guy is the next guy and I got to pass the torch. But like, we're talking about a very alpha sport. Like, it's a sport. It's a professional sport. Everyone in there is an alpha male. You guys pride yourselves on where you're at in your career. So have to give up that C, I think, is harder than most people give him credit for, because you go from being the bona fide leader to, oh, I'm giving this up. How do I deal with that? How does that change the way I approach the day to day? How does it change the way I approach things when we're struggling? If I've literally been told in the room and publicly, like, this isn't your team anymore. I think mentally that's probably a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been easy by any stretch. And, you talk about alpha male and whatnot, and ego comes into play, right? You're used to just constantly working towards getting more and more and climbing your status and building your ego, which can be beneficial in competitive sports, obviously. But he had to take a step back there and check his ego. I think you could probably lessen the blow in the fact that you say, listen, it's Auston Matthews after the season he just had. Yeah. It makes sense. I thought they would wait until after this season to do this. They chose not to just to try to spark something. But I really think that he's taken, the mentality of, hey, why don't I look on the positives? I don't have to carry that burden anymore. I don't have that weight on my shoulders. I can be free in this last year of my contract to see what I can make of it. And look what he's done with it. He's taken it and ran with it. Yeah. And I really didn't expect anything less of John Tavares. He's the consummate professional. He just does everything the right way, and he just has such a great head on his shoulders. I wasn't really surprised in any way. But you look at this team and what they have, and the same things over. And by all accounts, they're pretty set up in the crease. Their D looks as good as they have in a long time. what do you see March 7th, where the trade deadline comes? I don't know what's out there necessarily. It's yet to be seen, and Tree Living touched on it this week, but what would you love to see them add?
Oh my, a million things. But I think like, I knew you guys would probably ask this coming on the show, and I was thinking about it, and I kind of ultimately came to the conclusion, like, does it matter? They don't have the ability to get the type of player that is going to be like an immediate, like, oh my gosh, this sends this team over the edge. They can get complementary pieces, and sometimes those moves end up being the most valuable ones at the deadline. But I ultimately don't really think am I allowed to swear? I keep swearing. And
yes, you can.
Nick's not, you are.
I don't know if it fucking matters. Like,
Ooh.
you've got goaltending that has been a surprise this season, that has shown up for you, save for some injuries, right? But like, you have a couple goalies that have proven that they can be a legitimate tandem. But if you can't figure out your power play, and the superstar players that you have can't find a way to produce in the playoffs, and oh, by the way, also get your third and fourth liners in the mix involved, feeling like they're a part of it, you're not winning anyways. Like, I just don't believe that the Leafs can make one or two minor tweaks and like that's going to fix everything. These are problems that aren't just about, needing another guy on the back end to solidify the D. It's more than that to me. I'm blanking on the word right now, but like, these are not just like quick fix problems. These are problems that I think incorporate the entire team, the way they play, the way they approach things, and the way they handle adversity. So I mean, you can always use another defenseman. They need depth scoring, but like, who are they getting? Who can they
Jackie,
get?
you're being way too defeatist today. I won't lie.
I'm
Like,
not trying to
where's
be
the
defeated.
passion? Where's the pride?
This is the passion. Oh, where's the passion? So much passion, so much pride. But I also like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, this team should be able to win, especially this year. If there's one thing that we know about this season in the East, like, the path is there. There is the ability for this team to go on a very deep run and have a lot of success. But they have to get their heads out of their asses and know that, like, it's not just the sea doesn't just part and you just like walk through. They should have learned that when they faced the Montreal Canadiens and were up 3-1 and blew it. It doesn't matter who they face in the first round. It doesn't matter really what they do at the deadline. Like, yes, you would like to shore up some things and give yourself a little bit of insurance in case you have injuries, especially on the back end. But ultimately, I don't think that that's what's going to make or break this team. What's going to make or break this team is the thing that's always going to make or break this team: goaltending and their superstar offense, because that is the philosophy with which this roster was built, was that these 4 or 5 players will get it done. Hasn't happened yet. I hope it does happen. They're certainly capable of making it happen.
A lot of hope.
Yeah. I'm not a defeatist. I think that they can do it. I don't want people to be like, Jackie hates the Leafs. I love the Leafs. I want more than most people for this team to win, okay? Like, I want my father to see another cup win before he goes. So I really, really want this team to do well. But I think that it's going to come down to the guys that they already have. And then hopefully they can get some of the complementary pieces around them to also be a part of it, because it's very clear they can't do it on their own. They need help.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for what you're saying. I don't think it means you're a defeatist or that you're a Leafs hater or anything. You don't get that passionate about something you don't care about. It's this market and this team, it does something to you, especially with their history, where you want it so goddamn bad. And when you don't get anything near what you want or feel like you deserve as a fan over and over and over again, you can go to that place very easily, and people always do, and the market takes heat for that, fine. But at the end of the day, there is no one else coming in to save this. It's not possible. You have all the money tied up in these guys. They have no trade clauses. You've already tried to, tinker around with moving things, not happening. So it is up to them. And before you got on, I said your mentality, your killer instinct, you're getting pissed off. How many times do you got to lose to get pissed off about it? Like, these guys don't want to lose. Like you said, of course, they're professional athletes. They don't get to that level by not being competitors. Everything about their life is better when they win. But their response to coming up short is frustrating to people. It really is. Their body language, their facial expressions, their interviews, just their reactions to losing is not indicative of a killer, of an absolute assassin, of a Nathan MacKinnon with a cup in his pocket who only wants another one. People need to see that, or they're going to get ragged on.
And remember Nathan MacKinnon before the Avs won the cup with him?
Yep.
I think his second round they got eliminated, and he was like, "I've been here 9 years. We haven't won shit." Like, he was mad, and he wasn't saying, "Oh, woe is me. Oh, we didn't get the breaks. Oh, whatever. I like the way we played, but like we got respect." Like, none of that. You didn't hear that from Nathan MacKinnon. You saw someone that was pissed off, didn't like the result, and that's basically all he said in that press conference. He said, "I haven't won shit. I'm tired of losing. I don't want to lose anymore. And I'm going to take some ownership over my own self and what I bring and try to fix it." And what happens? They go on, they win a Stanley Cup. Now he's having the year he's having this year, making people debate whether or not maybe he's the best player in the world today, this year in this league. And I think there's a solid case to be made there based on the season that he's having. But it's just, I think you're right, Rosie. I think where the frustration comes from is like, okay, the Leafs have lost like 3 games. Am I mad? No. Am I annoyed? Absolutely. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed at the way that it's happening and the fact that we're talking about the same things once again. And I think for fans, when Mitch says what he says after a loss, that he liked the way they played, or when people are saying, "Oh, well, the power play has been bad, but we hit a couple of posts," and like, we're kind of doing this whole like, we're making excuses all the time. And it feels like the Leafs kind of do that as well. And I honestly am not even sure if I blame the players for that, because ultimately, if you go back and you look at the response from the front office, from Shanny and Dubas when he was here and everything that was happening, it was always, "Well, I like the way we played and we're going to run it back all or nothing because we believe in this group." And yes, it's important to let your players know that you believe in them and that you think that they can do it. But you can't do that at the expense of making them feel like nothing is ever their fault, or that they are never the ones to blame, because they are the ones playing the game. And sometimes they are to blame. And I think they are to blame for the power play. I don't think that's on anyone except the players. It can't be. You're too good. If you're so good that you want $1,000 million next year, then can you fucking score on the power play, please? Like, you are up a man. It should not be that difficult for Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner or William Nylander to score on the power play. I'm sorry. It's not that difficult. You have an extra person. Create space, make the other team move, get them out of position, shoot the puck. Am I dumb? Or is that what it boils down to for the most part? Like, get the goalie moving side to side, get a player out of position, open up a goddamn lane, and shoot the puck. That's it.
Yeah.
I think this has been good for you. Like, I expect you to send me a bill
This
for
is
the
your therapy
session, but I think this has been awesome for you, Jackie. Very therapeutic.
I don't get to talk at length about hockey as much as I used to, so I really try to use my time wisely. But I don't know. I would love for you guys to let me know if you think that I'm crazy or I'm being too dramatic or overreactive. But I do think that there has very much been a lot of these guys have been protected by the organization for a long time. And the media has been blamed for the criticism, and the fans have been blamed for being over dramatic. And it's everyone's fault except for theirs. And I think that has been to the detriment of the growth of some of these players, and realizing that even if you're a top 5 player in points and you're really good and maybe you are worth all the money that you're asking for, it's not just going to come to you. You don't just walk into the playoffs. No one's giving it to you, because the guys on the other side want it just as bad, if not more than you do. So it's not going to be, you're going to have to evolve and grow as players and play a different way and be willing to sacrifice a little bit more than maybe you want to for the greater good. Like, if Matthews and Marner were split up and on separate lines, maybe, I don't know, maybe all of a sudden you've got, a Bobby McMann or a Max Domi just feeling absolutely motivated because all of a sudden they're playing with a star player and they don't want it to go away. They want it to keep happening because they know individually it's going to be good for them, because their point production's probably going to go up, which means maybe they get an extra year on their next deal or a little bit more money, because they're not guaranteed the longevity that some of these superstars are. And I think that those motivational pinpoints throughout your lineup, they fucking matter. And when those guys feel like they have an opportunity to become a little bit more valuable, it helps everybody. It helps the entire lineup be a little bit more productive and work a little bit harder and maybe even sacrifice a little bit of their own game to try to get Mitch Marner the puck or Austin Matthews open or whatever it is. I don't know. I could go on and on and on.
Confirm Jackie Redmond has the passion. Okay. You are preaching to the choir first and foremost, Jackie. I think down the road, there's going to be a Netflix special. We saw a Prime special on the Leafs power play. There's going to be a Netflix special. I just want to end the conversation asking you about Netflix.
By
That was
the way, I do
incredible.
think the Leafs are a good team this year. In case anybody watching
Really?
is like, Jackie thinks the Leafs suck. I don't.
I think you said it perfectly.
Nailed
You
it, yeah.
gave them the accolades they deserve, but the accountability isn't quite there. They have been sheltered. They have been babied. Maybe you need to do more. You've come up short every goddamn time, which is why you get criticized. Maybe you need to find another gear. Maybe you have to be willing to do something you weren't willing to do before. I don't think that's outrageous. I think everyone with the head on their shoulders in this market is thinking the same thing. And I'm glad you said it because it confirms what we always say, but we got to tiptoe around it or we're going to be called, all these names and haters and get piled on as well. But it is what it fucking is. They are what they are. And we want to see what we want to see. Simple as that.
And it's because we know they're capable of better. That's the thing. Like they're a good team right now. They're going to fight for first place in their division. And like, that's all great. But to me, like this is a team that we should have seen dominate a season by now. We haven't seen that yet.
We have not. People in the chat are loving you as a guest here. I just, again, wanted to get your thoughts on Netflix and WWE. You're doing some great stuff there.
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, the season debut of Monday Night Raw or the debut on Netflix of Monday Night Raw felt like WrestleMania. Like it felt like I was at WrestleMania and everything feels larger than life. It's amazing. It's an amazing energy to be around. I feel so inspired and motivated. And we're doing things a lot differently there. So for someone in my role, it's really been awesome to be a part of that. And, even like, it's so collaborative. I don't know what it was like there 10 years ago. I wasn't there, but right now it's so collaborative. I have, the bosses on the broadcast side asking me for input about like what we would do in sports. Like if CM Punk wins this main event, like what would you do if it was an actual professional game? And I'm like, well, we would interview them right away on the broadcast. That's what we would do, and we're starting to do a lot more of that, whether it's in the ring, walking up the ramp, like immediately sort of like on the playing field, if you will. So all that stuff has been really fun. And the numbers have been good. And I'm doing commercials now for the international audience, which has been really cool. Especially just being on in Canada and sort of getting that, because with TNT, I don't get that, right? For the most part, like we air mostly in the States. So some people have forgotten that I even cover hockey, which is hilarious. But yeah, it's been so much fun. And there's quite a hockey contingent there that goes beyond CM Punk. That's been really fun to be a part of as well. So
yeah, and I think you've brought some legitimacy in that position because you act exactly the same way you do, like doing a hockey broadcast, where a lot of the everybody's playing a role, right? It's all a role and a part of a show, but you do such a great job of juggling that with your interviews, I find.
Well, listen, we're going to be in Toronto in March, I believe.
Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, if you guys are able to get to a show, like my husband does not watch wrestling. He's never even, I don't believe him when he says this, but he says he's never even had a wrestling phase. I'm like, oh, come on.
That's a lie.
As a kid, you didn't have 1 year where you were like, wow, Stone Cold's fucking awesome. Like, come on, you're such a liar. But even he went to a show and I wasn't sure like what his reaction would be afterwards. And he loved it. He thought it was so much fun. So I think if anyone ever has a chance to go, they should check it out. It's such a great show. It's a spectacle. It's like a traveling circus in the best way. And actually, I'm gonna state this very specifically because I have not been able to confirm if it's true. But I heard this week from a very reliable source that Austin Matthews is a wrestling fan. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. I don't know if it's true, but I heard that from 2 pretty reliable people this week. So Austin's going to hate to see me coming. I got a Leafs-Avs game in Toronto in March, maybe. And if I see him, I will be asking him if he's a wrestling fan.
Track him
we
down.
need Pappy 316 t-shirts right away. Jackie, we love you. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for your passion today.
You guys are the best. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Jackie.
Our pleasure.
Bye.
The one and only Jackie Redmond. Make sure you go check out Raw on Netflix, WWE. This deal is just incredible through the roof. But I mean, I know she's feeling it a bit there, but like I think she's so bang on in terms of the way she dissected it and broke it down from a Leafs fan's perspective. Never mind being in the media, but like I think she nailed it. Like everybody in the chat's agreeing with her.
No, I mean the timing was perfect with it. Why do you get that fired up with a team that's sitting where they are in the standings? Because they're showing signs of how they've slipped through the cracks before, and it pisses you off, and you want them to stay the course, and you want them to pay attention to the details and have this level of compete. And right when she comes on the show on this particular day is a good day to say, hey, listen, this is the kind of shit we don't want to see anymore. This is the kind of stuff that's bothered us. These are the question marks that have followed this group around, and rightfully so, because you care and because you have the passion. And it's timing wise, I think it was great for her to go off on that. I think we could have just wound her up and let her go for another half an hour. It would have been easier. But all the points that she was hitting, I thought she hit the nail on the head, because they are what they are. They're not unfair. They're not out to lunch. They're not head in the clouds. They're none of those things. They're just very clear. And it is odd because you go back and forth with this team so much, because they do have the potential, they do have the ability, and they have shown you signs of being better than everybody else. But then they have these step backs which seem bigger than other teams. I know everyone's gone on a 3-game skid, and I'm not even really talking about the 3-game skid. I'm just saying their good is so goddamn good, and it gives you this hope and belief that they're going to do X. And then their bad can be so bad, and it's not just like they're losing games or losing 6-3 to Carolina. It's how it happens, the response to it, the game afterwards, the compete level, all the things that we've talked about, which get people in that tizzy where you go on the rants like Jackie just did. And I don't blame her one bit. I think she was bang on.
Hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed that interview right there. By the way, a different company, but a guy who used to be in WWE, Adam Copeland. Make sure to go check out episode 2 of Up Close with Stephen Brunt. Features an incredible sit down with Adam Copeland. I listened to the podcast for him last week. It's so good. It's out now officially on YouTube right here at the Leafs Nation 401. So make sure you go check that out. Here's a clip of Adam talking about his love for hockey and the Maple Leafs.
For me, it's my favorite sport. It's my favorite thing to sit down and watch. Like I wake up in a good mood when I know there's a Leafs game. I really do. Like I always try and wake up in a good mood anyway, but I know on that day I'm going to, and I know if they win, I'm going to be so happy. Yeah. Like that Vegas game the other night, I was like, oh, that was a team win. Oh, they're getting Berube now.
Haven't broken your heart like your entire life watching them?
Of course they have. You know, I'm 51.
Yeah.
They haven't won a cup in my lifetime. Yes, they've broken my heart, but well, what can you do? They still have Wendell Clark. They still have Daryl Sittler. They still have Boris Salming. They still have Matt Sundin. Come on. And now it's an embarrassment of riches.
I say this is a monument to your tragic affection for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which God love you. I'm sure it'll happen one of these days. But
not left to the imagination. You know, you kind of know what this is when you're walking.
Yeah, right? It does make a statement. The masks are great. So, okay, I recognize some of them.
Yeah.
But you have a pretty good cross-section of Leaf goaltending history here, don't you?
Kind of took it from the 70s all the way through,
yeah.
Right? So, we got Bunny LaRock, and I always loved Bunny LaRock. The fact that he had a nickname, the fact that it was Bunny, the fact that there's a Playboy bunny on his mat, like, come on, and Paul Matier and Joseph Wall. This one I really like because it's a Maple Leaf Gardens mask.
Yeah.
And it's signed by 5 different goalies. So, that one's really special why it has the center. And
maybe this.
There you go, man. That room looked electric. By the way, I believe closer to the playoffs, Adam Copeland's Leafs room will be featured in a nice little tidy video here on YouTube. But that was a bit of a background look at that episode 2 of Up Close with Stephen Brunt, Rosie.
If you ever wondered, having him on our show a couple times or hearing him talk, if he's just kind of a passive pretender Leafs fan, my Lord, that room is sick, man. He legit cares down to his core about this team, and that Potvin, Cujo, and Eddie the Eagle mask together. Oh my God, that gets me going. That was pretty cool. And like I said, a guy that is a no joke fan. He's the real deal.
And again, go check out this interview. It was over an hour and a half. It was awesome, awesome stuff. If you're not familiar with Adam's story, it's pretty amazing. And just as Leafs fandom, they cover that as well. So you can check that out right here at the Leafs Nation 401. The interview is now up, also up close wherever you find your podcast. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase today. That's NATION, NATION. So the Sheldon Keefe revenge game, and I believe for the second straight home game, the Leafs are underdogs on the betting line coming into this game. So the market thinks Keefe's Devils are going to win this one, but I like Austin Matthews to score again tonight, Rosie.
You do, eh? Yeah, I don't mind that. Honestly, dude, I'm lost with betting right now on the Maple Leafs. I look at the sheet and I veer away from the Leafs game. I was going with the Calgary Flames money line. They got good value there. I think if Dustin Wolf is playing, he's been single-handedly winning games, and I think he's emerging as their number one in Calgary. So that's kind of my bet. But with this Leafs game, I don't know. I'm staying away from the outcome. For some reason, I'm leaning towards Willie. I just see if they're going to get pulled out of this funk and have someone break out and say, all right, enough's enough. Let's change the narrative and the storyline here. I could see Willie being that guy, and everyone, Willie took a little bit of time off there and then busted out and said, hey, remember me. This is what I'm all about. So I'd lean towards William Nylander tonight, and I don't mind your pick of Matthews either.
Put it this way, I would be excited if they score more than a goal. I want to celebrate something offensively. These games have been so hard to watch, man. Yeah. And then they're not scoring goals. They're not generating offense. The power play is so dry. And I hope this is just building to the right time of year where you want this team just humming, and that's the Stanley Cup playoffs and the springtime. Rosie, excellent job today. As producer Vic did point out in our chat, I did find a way to get you going about halfway through the show. Your passion level through the roof. We needed Jackie Redmond to get that out of you. And also just your thoughts on Mitch Marner. And we got cooking in a big way here today. So good job.
Yeah, most of it was winding Jackie up and letting her go. She did our job for the day. But yeah, again, it's a funky time of the year. We'll see where they lead to. I have patience. I am not, hitting any panic buttons or anything of that nature. But I do have an expiration date on that. So we'll see what tonight brings.
Very thankful to Jackie Redmond, very busy schedule, for making some time for us today on the program. Really, really appreciate it. Folks in the chat, great as per usual at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.